quite disturbing. It really is.
I had polio days, but then I also got vaccinated. And it was getting rid of polio that pushed me out. Saw some
Right, of course, yeah.
that pushed me to try to do research.
Wow.
My mother and grandma would go back there and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a reason that kids don't get polio anymore. Because the vaccines work. Yeah. Yeah. Oy. Yeah. I think you've got a lot of company in that feeling. Yeah.
so as long as these things. Got it. Great. We're just starting with Mara tonight. Okay.
You might not rise for Baruch, but.
On this night, O God, we have come into your house to pray in your sanctuary. But if the heavens are merely your throne, if the earth is but your footstool, if the heaven of heavens cannot contain you, how much less this house, built by mere human hands? Yet although your dwelling place is every place, and although you can be sought and found in any place, it is to this place that we come most confidently to seek renewal in your purifying presence. We'll continue on page 5. We'll be on the third line. We don't yet have a minyan in person, so hopefully we'll be able to add Baruch Hu back in later at the end when we have a minyan. For now, third line on page 5. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bivaro ma'ariv ha'ravim
Umavirio mumei vilayla umavdil ben yom uven layla Adonai tzivot shemo el chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu leolam v'ed Baruch atah Adonai hamari v'aravi.
Amen. Page 6. Havat olam beit Yisrael amcha v'torator mimot chol kimushon dali maradal kena kihem hayayim
kihem chayenu v'yorech yameinu uvahem nege yomam v'layla v'yavatecha al tasir mimenu liolamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohev amo Yisrael.
Amen.
Shema Yisrael Adonai ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך והיה אם שמוע תשמעו כאשר אנוכי מצווה אתכם היום ונתתי את ארצכם בית העיר כושר שפתן בגנך ודרשך ויצרך ונתתי עשב בזרע לבנתך ויעלתם וזרעתי הישמרו לכם ונבטל לבבכם נסרתם לבבכם וחרף עיני בכם ויצר דזר וקשרתם אותם לעילי ואלוהים ביניהם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם Adonai Elohechem Amen.
אמונו כי הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואין זולתו ואנחנו ישראל עמו הפודנו מיד מלכים מלכנו הגון מכף כל הארץ עמנו נפרד לנו מצרינו והמשכנו
השם נפשנו בחיים ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ומרים ובני ישראל לכנו שירה בשמחה רבה ויאמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש נורא תהילות עושה פלא מלכותך ראו בניך בוקי הים לפני משה זה לי אנו ויאמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
We're on the top of page 9.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו שלום מאמינים מכן לחיים ופרוסים לך שומך ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך ברוך אתה אדוני הפורש סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים.
Amen. We rise, page 10.
תיקו בחודש שופר בכסל יום חגנו כי יחוק לישראל הוא משפט לאלוהי יעקב ויתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה ביעלמה דברה קירותי וימליך מלכותי בחיי חון וביומי חון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן הקריב וימרו אמן יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם לעולמי עולמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעולמה ואמרו amen.
We each have the opportunity now to daven our own silent Amidah, beginning on page 11. Kaddish Shalem, page 19.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה
אמן.
בעולמה דברה קירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומייכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה ברכו לעילה לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירן בעלמה וימרו
אמן.
תתקבל צלותון ובאותון דכל ישראל קדם אבון דבשמיא וימרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל וימרו אמן.
אמן.
עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו amen.
We'll turn back to page 5. I'll invite you to rise. We now have a minyan, so we have the opportunity to say Baruch Hu, a little bit out of order, but better late than never. We'll rise, page 5.
Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam va'ed.
We'll remain standing. We'll turn to page 24 for Kiddush. Savri, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol am, v'romanu mikol ashon, v'kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav. Vatiten lanu Adonai Eloheinu be'ava et yom hazikaron hazeh yom teruah mikra kodesh zecher litziat mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol hamim udvarcha emet v'kayam la'ad Baruch atah Adonai melech al kol haaretz mekadesh Yisrael ve'yom hazikaron. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehecheyanu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
Amen.
You can be seated. Shana Tova. A man suffering, experiencing profound internal anguish and upset at the state of his world, thought that he may be happier, more content in life if he were to meet Elijah the prophet, Eliyahu Hanavi. So he traveled to go visit the Baal Shem Tov and asked him, Rebbe, I want to see Elijah the prophet. Can you help me? The Baal Shem Tov replied, it's simple. I'll tell you exactly what to do. Get 2 boxes, fill one with food and the other with children's clothing. Before Rosh Hashanah, travel to Minsk. Go to a certain house on the outskirts of town just before the forest. It's a rundown house, almost falling apart. Stand in front of the door for a good while and just listen. Don't knock until right before candle lighting. Then, when they open the door, ask them for hospitality for Yontif. This man, the student of the Baal Shem Tov, went home and told his wife about the plan. How can you leave your family for Rosh Hashanah, she said. The children will want their father to take them to shul. He told her, I have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see Elijah the prophet, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to emerge from this place of sadness. Finally, she agreed that it was something he couldn't pass up. He meticulously followed all of the instructions. He filled boxes with food and clothing. He went to Minsk. He found the dilapidated house. He arrived a half hour before sunset, and he waited outside the door listening. And he could hear children crying inside the house. Mama, they said, we're hungry. It's almost Yontif, and we don't have even a decent thing to wear to synagogue. Kinderlach, the mother responded, trust in God. It's a new year. God will provide everything that you need. And finally, the student knocked on the door. When the woman opened it, he asked if he could stay with them for Rosh Hashanah, but the woman protested, how can I host you? I don't even have any food. Don't worry, he said. I have enough food for all of us. And he walked in with his 2 boxes, one of food and one of clothing. The woman prepared the food, and they all sat down to a fine Rosh Hashanah dinner. Afterwards, this man, their Yontif guest, opened the box of clothing, and the children took whatever they needed, a shirt, trousers, a dress, a hat, a pair of socks. And the family went to bed happy, but the man couldn't sleep. All night long, he lay awake waiting to meet Elijah the prophet, and he stayed for 2 days of Rosh Hashanah until the Chag was over, waiting and waiting, but Elijah never came. When Rosh Hashanah was over, he left disappointed and went home. He felt even more dejected than he had when he arrived, and the whole point of his quest had been to feel better, not worse. So the next day, he went to the Baal Shem Tov, and he said, Master, I went and I did as you told me, but Elijah never came. I am still suffering and sad, and the world is still in a bad place, and I was hoping that meeting Elijah would lift me. Did you do exactly as I said? The Baal Shem Tov asked. I did, replied the student. And you didn't see him? No, Rebbe. Are you sure? Of course I'm sure. I so desperately wanted to see him, I would have known if I had. Well then, said the Baal Shem Tov, that means you have to go back for Yom Kippur. Do everything exactly the same way. Bring food, find the house, arrive an hour before sunset, stand in front of the door, stay there, and listen for a while before you knock. You will know when it's time. This chassid went back to his wife and he told her that again he would be away. How can you leave your children again, she asked. But the Baal Shem Tov says I'll be able to see Elijah the prophet like one of the great tzaddikim. He said, how could I not go? It has a chance of helping, alleviating our suffering. And his wife agreed that it was worth going away for 2 or 3 days if he could meet Elijah the prophet, if they could feel better. So he went back to Minsk with high hopes before Yom Kippur. He arrived there an hour before Kol Nidre, the holiest night of the year, and he easily found the dilapidated house again on the outskirts of town by the forest, and he stood in front of the door listening for what seemed like eternity. Inside again, he heard the children crying. Mommy, We're hungry. We haven't eaten the whole day. How can we fast for Yom Kippur? And what would we even have to break the fast? Children, said the mother, do you remember that you were crying before Rosh Hashanah? You had no food or clothing, and do you remember what I told you? I said that God would send Elijah the prophet, and Elijah would bring you food and clothing and whatever you would need. Wasn't I right? Didn't Elijah come and bring you food and clothing? He stayed with us for 2 whole days, and now you're crying again that you're hungry. I promise you, children, Elijah will come now too and bring you food. And then the student understood what his master, the Baal Shem Tov, had meant, and he knocked on the door. We are all, like this man, on the cusp of a new year, desperate for it to be a different year, a better year, a year with less suffering. And the message that the Baal Shem Tov gives him, the key to finding Elijah, is within each of us. None of us can be Elijah the prophet any more than this student was. But like him, we can fulfill Elijah's mission, knocking on the doors that we know we need to knock on, caring for people in our world who need help, who are also suffering. Our tradition assigns Elijah the role of laying the groundwork for the coming of the Messianic age, and we too can do that work by the way that we live generously, and perhaps we alleviate some of our own suffering along the way. This is the call of the high holiday season. As we prepare for this new year, we ask ourselves what doors we must knock on and walk through. How can we bring more wholeness to our broken world through our actions and our love? Whose door can you knock on? Where we will find salvation, where we will find Elijah when we too are suffering, is in our ability to be connected, perhaps even to extend ourselves to others who are also in need. It's a reminder that we need not suffer alone, that often our own turmoil is alleviated, our own struggles feel just a little bit less burdensome when we find the wherewithal inside of ourselves to be there for others. Perhaps neither you nor I are the Messiah, but the lesson here is that we do not need to be. And we will perhaps never see the real Elijah, but we also don't need to. On this holiest of evenings, so filled with hope and possibility of change and a different world, we just need to remember this task given to each of us, to relieve suffering wherever we can, to reach out our hand to those who are alone, to comfort those who are in pain, to do what we can to make this year a better year than last, and to make the world a better place than it was when we found it. If we succeed this year in doing any of that, who knows who may knock on our door, and who might we see when we look in the mirror? Shana Tova.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol latet gedula leotzer breshit shelo asanu kegoyei haratzot velo samanu kemishpachot adama shelo sam chelkeinu kahem vegor aleinu kechol hamonam ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ושכינת זו בגבי מרבים גלובין ולמקנו אפס ולתוקה כתוב תושבים אל הארץ מתחת אינו לא כנקה ולהליבר מהר ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
You can be seated. All those who are in mourning or observing a yahrzeit, I invite you to join me in reciting Mourner's Kaddish, Kaddish Yatom, page 26. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra kiruteh ve'amlich malchuteh, v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kariv imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitzpa'ar v'yitzromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudsha brechu. Le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rab amin shemaya. V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. We continue on page 27 with Psalm 27.
David Adonai Yirishim,
David Adonai
כי יצפני בסוכו ויום רסנים השיר וזמן שמע אדוני קולי ואקרא שמע אל תסתר פיך לולא האמנתי לראות בטוב אדוני בארץ חיים, קווה אל אדוני חזק ויאמץ ליבך וקווה אל אדוני.
Shana Tova. It's nice to be with all of you tonight, seeing some of you in person that I haven't seen in a long time. Great to have you here. And thank you to those of you that are joining us from home. We're glad to have you with us for Yontif as well. Tomorrow morning we'll be here at 8:30 for the beginning of our service together. We will meet at 5 o'clock for Tashlich tomorrow afternoon in the parking lot. Anyone is welcome to join us, and we'll be outside the whole time. And no other announcements. We'll conclude tonight with Yigdal on page 28.
יגדל אלוהים חי וישתבח נמצא בעיני תל מציאותו אחד ואין יחיד כייחודו נעלם וגם אין סוף לאחדותו אין לו דמות הגוף ואינו גוף לא נערוך אליו קדושתו קדמון לכל דבר אשר נברא ראשון מן ראשית לראשיתו נועד עולם בכל נוצר יורה גדולתו ומלכותו שפע נבואתו נתנו אל אנשי סגולתו ותפארתו לא קם בישראל כמו שעוד נביא ומביט את אמונתו תורת אמת נתן לעמו על יד נביאו נאמן ביתו יחליף האל ולא ימיר דתו לעולמים לזולתו צופה ויודע סתרנו מביט לסוף דבר בקדמתו גומל לאיש חסד כמפעלו נותן לרשע רע כרישתו ישלח לקץ ימין משיחנו לבדוק מחקק את ישועתו מתים יחייל ברוב חסדו ברוך הדעת שם תהילתו מתים יחייל Baruch Hashem, Baruch Adei Shem Tehilato.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova Tikati V'Teichati.
Lester, I love your davening. I was just saying, I love your davening.
Well, I usually go to the home for the holiday, but they didn't let us in this year, so.
You'll hear Amy's davening for the first time.
Yeah, it was very good.
Where did you learn?
From being at shul. That's just at all. Didn't have any, nobody taught you? Just picked it up being in shul?
I sat next to my dad and
Yeah.
he died. And I liked it.
Yontif, it's so nice to see you.
That